Welcome to Money Flow IQs, where money meets learning. We empower individuals to master financial literacy for lasting stability. Our service equips you to make informed decisions about budgeting and saving. Join Money Flow IQs today to achieve your financial goals.
Ever wonder if there's an actual, repeatable formula for building a $1 million business? Well, today we're going to dive into a step-by-step blueprint from mentor Daniel Priestley, as broken down by Ali Abdaal. And the key thing to remember is this isn't about luck, it's a process. So let's start with this core idea because it's so important. Forget this myth of the born entrepreneur. This entire framework is built on the belief that building a business is a skill you can actually learn. It's just a series of steps you can take, and it really doesn't matter what your background is or how much time you have. All right, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover the big picture blueprint. Then we'll get into laying the groundwork, finding that killer idea, building the engine to launch it, scaling it all into a real system, and finally, figuring out which path is the right one for you. Let's get into it. Okay, so the whole journey is basically split into two phases. You've got everything below the line, which is all about preparation, the work you do before you even start. And then there's above the line, which is when you're actively building the business itself. So first up, let's talk preparation. This first step is just genius. Seriously, it's called the 766 apprenticeship. And the whole goal is to get this massive firmware update for your brain. By working inside a small, successful business, you get three critical things. You get commercial awareness, how money is actually made. You get self-awareness about your own strengths. And you get access to contacts and resources you would never get otherwise. Let's move on to the next piece of our foundation. Because before you quit your job or bet the farm on some big idea, you need to test your entrepreneurial muscles, but in a really low-risk, controlled way. And this is how you do it. The 90-day side hustle. Now, the crucial part here is that it's open and shut. 90 days, that's it. You're not starting a business, you're running a project. It could be super scrappy, like buying roses wholesale and selling them door to door, or just organizing a one-off local event. The goal is just to go from an idea to getting paid, and to see if you actually enjoy the process. And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? You've got this great idea, but you don't want to spend months building something that nobody actually wants. Well, the answer lies in running some fast, cheap experiments. Now, the example they use for this is Tabasco toothpaste. I know, it sounds ridiculous, right? But that's exactly the point. To test it, you wouldn't go and build a whole factory. You just mix some Tabasco into regular toothpaste, hit the streets with free samples, and just watch people's faces. You're just looking for a strong reaction, whether it's good or bad. It's a quick, cheap way to get a real signal. So how many people do you need to test your crazy spicy toothpaste on? The magic number is 30. Talking to 5 or 6 people, that tells you basically nothing. But once you hit 30 samples, you get your first confidence interval. This is the point where you have a real signal, a real piece of data that tells you whether you should keep going or maybe pivot. Okay, foundation is laid. Now we're moving above the line into generating the idea. And again, this isn't about waiting for some lightning bolt of inspiration. It's a system, a process for filtering and selecting. So the process starts with brainstorming 10 ideas. Then you have to get ruthless. You don't rank them by what you're passionate about. Nope. You rank them on 3 external factors. How painful is the problem for the customer? Do they actually have the money to solve it? And can you charge a high enough price to build a real business? Okay, so what if you have a tie between 2 really great ideas? This is where your personal story comes in. You filter them through your origin, your unique background and skills, your vision, the future you actually want to create, and your mission, the specific things you do that create the most value. The best idea is always going to be at the intersection of a great market opportunity and you. So, with a validated idea in hand, it's time to build the engine that's going to bring it to life. And that means getting the right people on board, developing your product, and, making those first crucial sales. The first thing to realize is you shouldn't go it alone. But that fear of giving away equity, it's huge. This analogy just illustrates the mindset shift you need perfectly. You're not giving away anything. You're trading a piece of a small idea for a piece of a much bigger, more valuable reality. I mean, would you rather own 100% of a tent or 50% of a beautiful house? Exactly. All right, let's talk about the other big fear, sales. The advice here is blunt, but it's absolutely necessary. Get over it. Because here's the secret. Every single senior role is a sales role. A CEO sells to investors. A doctor sells a treatment plan to a patient. It's just communication, and it is essential. And it's not nearly as scary as you think. Forget that whole sell me this pen stereotype. A great sales conversation is really just a consultative chat based on these 3 simple questions. By understanding where they are, where they want to be, and what's in their way, you can genuinely see if your solution can help bridge that gap. It's all about helping, not harassing. Now we're at the point where this hands-on startup starts to scale up into a real business. And this phase is all about creating repeatable systems so that the company can grow way beyond your own personal effort. A key part of scaling is building a small but powerful team. And the most overlooked role? The associate KPI. This isn't a full-time employee. It's someone who already has credibility in your industry who lends their name to your project. Their reputation can open 1,000 doors and instantly give your new venture the trust it needs to get off the ground. Now, let's talk about your product. You don't market your expensive core product directly. Instead, you promote your product for prospects, or P4P. This is a low-commitment entry point, like a free webinar, a sample, a trial. You attract a really wide audience with this easy yes, and then you sell your core product to the most engaged people from that group. You know, it's easy to look at a framework like this and think it's going to be a smooth road. It's not. This metaphor from the Shawshank Redemption is perfect. Building a business isn't some single heroic escape. It's the slow, painful, day-by-day process of tunneling through cement with a tiny rock hammer. It's the daily DMs, the follow-ups, the small wins that just add up over time. So, we've tunneled our way through the process. Now let's pull back and look at the entire map, because at a certain point you have to make a really big choice about what kind of business you're actually trying to build. And this timeline just illustrates the entire life cycle perfectly. You start by making sure you have founder fit, that you're the right person for this idea. Then you test it with a simple MVP to see if you can find product market fit. Once you have that, you create a go-to-market plan to sell it reliably. And only then do you hit the final stages, the intense scale-up phase and maybe a potential exit. And this is the critical choice. Do you want a lifestyle business? Well, then you stop around the go-to-market phase with a small, efficient team, and you optimize for profit and freedom. Or do you want a performance business? That means you enter the intense scale-up phase. You grow the team aggressively, all with the goal of a massive exit. Neither one is better, but you have to decide which game you're playing. So, there you have it. The blueprint is laid out, from the very first preparatory steps to the final choice of what kind of company you want to build. The steps are clear, the process is proven. So the only question left is, what's your first step going to be?
Subscribe for more smart money ideas every week.